So what do you call this shot? It's like a really specific shot. It's like a camera roll. The internet seems to be calling it a Dutch roll, which I guess makes sense because it's Dutch angles, like crooked angles. But it's when you roll the camera sort of around the center of the lens, and it's really hard to do. If you try to do it with a tripod, you'll figure out that it's like really specific. You need something like this techno crane with this like articulating head, or at least this like remote head that has this extra axis to remote to do it. Gimbals will also do it, but I'd be afraid to put a heavier thing on a gimbal to do it because it's a weird angle. I was thinking I could cobble together something that's sturdy enough that it can actually do the shot. So here's my attempts at making the Dutch roll rig and how much it costs. All right, so the first thing is you can do this in just post-production by setting up your frame and then basically telling the editing software to rotate the frame. But what you got to realize is you got to be like zoomed out about 2 times more than you think in order to have the space to do it, especially if your camera shoots 16:9. So it looks like it's about 2.04 is the zoom to make sure you don't see any of the outside of the frame when you do the zoom, and it works. So you could do it that way. That's the free version, but I also have like actual equipment to use too. So here's that. So here's my first attempt. The first thing you need for all these is a tripod because you need to be able to have the tripod tilt down far enough to get the angle right. And so what you do is you take the tripod plate and you put it under a ball head or a video head, something that can articulate and specifically has that isolated pan function. It gets its own knob. And so what I attached that ball head was a flash bracket with another tripod plate receiver on it. So basically, I've just bolted a flash bracket to a tripod head and then bolted my camera to the flash bracket. And as long as you can get, the ball head has some kind of adjustment. This one is Arca Swiss, so you can slide the plate up and down. That's how you can center the lens on the center of the axis. And so once you get everything lined up, it spins pretty decently. And as long as your ball head is strong enough, you're pretty good. This is a really stout ball head on this one. This is not a cheap ball head, but cheaper ones I'll show you later can actually get away with it too. So here's my second attempt, and the big difference is I'm using a tripod head on a tripod head because obviously tripod heads usually have isolated pan on their own. And it turns out I've learned later that that extra handle is kind of awesome. But yeah, it's just a tripod head on a tripod head, and then that flash bracket, and then another, receiver. This worked like shockingly good. I was really surprised, and I think it really is because that tripod head is so heavy duty that it's consistent, and that handle really works out. So this one I was pleasantly surprised by. All right, and here's the fanciest one. And I think the only thing I'd change about it is I have just a standard cheapo ball head on it that seems to be doing the job. But in hindsight, now that I've used the one with the tripod head on it, I would probably switch the tripod head for that ball head. But for price sake, we'll stay with the ball head. But this is just rails. So basically, you need 4 rail blocks, which hold the rails. So 2 kits of rail blocks. You need 2 sets of rails. The rails I have on here are 6 inches and 12 inches, I think, but any numbers will do because you just need the up and down adjustment and the back and forth adjustment. And then the last thing you need is a tripod receiver and a tripod plate to put on the rail block for the forward and back sliding. And it looks slick. The OCD of you is going to realize that the rail blocks are off center because of how the bolts are in the rail blocks, but that's actually not a problem because the ball head that I'm using has the Arca Swiss plate, so you can slide the plate side by side to center it. So you can get everything centered correctly. So yeah, by far the most expensive at about $100 for this build, or about 140 if you want to use a tripod head instead of this ball head, like a video head instead of the ball head. But definitely the most sleek, definitely the coolest. It works really well. So As it sits, it's $100. $30 in rod clamps. Another $20 in a base plate with a tripod plate to mount the camera. Another $11 for some long rods. $12 for some slightly longer rods, and $23 for a ball head with an Arca plate on top, and then maybe a longer Arca plate for $6. And so that's your $100. If you want to add another $40, you swap out the ball head with a cheapo video head that has its own isolated pan, and there you go. So $140 gets you a pretty fancy thing. So second one on the list, about $81. The L bracket costs $11, so that's pretty cool. Tripod head is $60. The Manfrotto plate is about $10, and that's all you need. And honestly, as far as stability, this may be the most stable, except for, you can get rails really tight if you need to. And my first attempt, the cheapest one, coming in at about $60, $11 for the L bracket. Base plate and tripod plate, $20. Ball head with an Arca top is going to be about $23, and then a slightly longer plate is $6, and that's all you need. Any of these three, I think, work really well. It's kind of just whether or not you want to show up in front of people with a flash bracket because it looks dumb. So mix and match. I still think, as far as like longevity and being able to not be embarrassed and take this to set, I would still go with $100 or $140 with the rails and like a video head to have dedicated for it, just because it seems like a cleaner look. But all this works, and all this does the same thing. So for sub $100, that's how you do it. Otherwise, you can rent a gimbal and roll the dice, or pay thousands of dollars a day to rent a robotic head. So there it is. What do you guys think? Catch you next time.